Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today because we are going to explore a truly fascinating psychological paradox. We are unpacking the hidden psychology of deep thinkers and looking at why the most intelligent people among us seem to be completely, utterly obsessed with doing absolutely nothing. If you're someone who values structured learning and you love getting right to the core of complex ideas, well, you are in the perfect place. Today, we are going to completely reframe how you think about productivity, intelligence, and the immense, often hidden power of stillness.
Let's be real for a second. Ask yourself honestly, do you ever feel kind of guilty for just sitting in total silence? Have you ever had one of those moments where you're just sitting on the couch, maybe staring blankly at a wall or looking out a window, and suddenly this wave of guilt just washes right over you? We live in this modern hustle culture that is constantly whispering, or really screaming, that if we aren't visibly moving, working, or grinding, we're somehow failing. Most people around you would look at that stillness and immediately label it as lazy. But if you find yourself constantly craving those quiet moments, psychology suggests it isn't a flaw at all, not even a little bit.
Okay, let's dive into this, because we really need to make a massive paradigm shift here. In hustle culture, doing nothing is immediately, automatically equated with laziness. But psychologically speaking, for high IQ individuals, doing nothing is actually a highly specialized mental state known as a cognitive incubation period. It's actually the clearest evidence that your brain is operating on a frequency most people simply do not notice. What looks like doing nothing to the outside world is, in reality, a deeply active, intense state of mental processing.
Section 1. The power of incubation, and how the subconscious actually solves problems.
A lot of us were taught that to solve a difficult problem, you just have to keep grinding at your computer screen. Just power through, right? But research completely debunks this. Your absolute best ideas, your most innovative solutions, they almost never surface while you're actively agonizing over a task. When a deep thinker steps away and just sits in silence, their brain begins this fascinating process called associative integration. It's this rare ability to take two completely unrelated ideas and construct an invisible bridge between them. Highly intelligent people literally utilize silence to fuel these exact problem-solving networks. It's in the quiet that the brain connects the dots that most people miss entirely simply because everyone else is too busy reacting to the immediate noise around them.
So let's walk through exactly how this subconscious process works. First, you disconnect. You physically step away from the screen and the immediate task. Second, while you look like you're just kicking back on the couch, your subconscious mind fires up. It starts running millions of tiny simulations, testing out ideas, predicting consequences, like a supercomputer running in the background. Finally, step 3. Your brain builds that invisible bridge between totally unrelated concepts. You see, you aren't being lazy. Your mind is just operating behind the scenes, doing all the heavy analytical lifting while your body gets to rest.
All right, moving into Section 2, protecting cognitive bandwidth, which is essentially the tax on your intelligence.
And this brilliantly illustrates a really fundamental constraint. This background processing we just talked about, it requires massive mental energy. Psychology tells us the human brain does not have an infinite battery. We have a strictly limited amount of cognitive bandwidth every single day for our attention, our focus, and our emotional regulation. And for a deep processor, the modern world is just utterly exhausting. Constant notifications pinging on your phone, getting roped into meaningless small talk at the office, loud physical environments, every single one of these acts as a heavy tax on their cognitive bandwidth, draining the exact energy they need for deeper thought.
Because the world is so incredibly loud and constantly demanding, highly intelligent people actively seek out nothingness. They absolutely crave it. By removing the physical noise of the world, they finally give their mind the breathing room it desperately needs. Silence quite literally allows the brain to breathe. It's the space where they can reflect on new information, rethink old assumptions, and update their core beliefs. Without this silence, the deep processors simply cannot function at their highest capacity. It's their oxygen.
Which brings us to a really curious behavior. So why do high IQ people so often take long walks entirely alone? You might have noticed this pattern in historical geniuses or, hey, maybe even in your own life. People often mistake this for being antisocial or aloof, but that completely misses the point. There's a fascinating, almost paradoxical link here between physical movement and mental stillness that we really need to unpack.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, mastering cognitive inhibition and the mental gap between emotion and action.
When you combine solitary movement, like taking a long walk alone, with complete solitude, you actually activate the brain's default mode network. These are the neural pathways responsible for profound creativity and self-reflection. Psychologists have a specific term for what is happening in this space: cognitive inhibition. Basically, this is the ability to stop an automatic knee-jerk reaction and choose a thoughtful, calculated response instead. While the vast majority of people instantly react to everything life throws at them, the smartest people intentionally use nothingness and solitary time to create a mental gap. They use this gap to slow down, guaranteeing that they are moving through life with deliberate intention, rather than just blind, chaotic impulse.
Section 4. Lazy but ambitious, and how they go about resisting inefficient effort.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it explains a very specific and honestly often misunderstood personality pattern, the paradox of being lazy but ambitious. The outside world sees someone looking lazy and automatically assumes they're just avoiding work. But the internal reality, it's a completely different kind of ambition. They are actively resisting meaningless, inefficient effort. Because their brain is constantly calculating the return on investment of their energy, they very quickly identify when a task is just busy work. Their internal standards are just incredibly high.
To put it simply, they would much rather do absolutely nothing at all than do something poorly, unnecessarily, or inefficiently. When you see a highly intelligent person resting, they're not resting because they are tired of working. No, they're resting because their brain has already done all the heavy lifting of planning, analyzing, and strategizing before a single ounce of physical work has even begun. What looks like resting is, in fact, a state of intense mental preparation.
So the crucial point is that relying on silence and strategic nothingness is actually a massive indicator of high executive function. It proves you have a strong internal locus of evaluation. You judge your worth, your productivity, and your success by your own meticulously crafted standards, not by the frantic, ever-changing expectations of the crowd around you. You don't need a constant dripping stream of dopamine from your phone or external validation from others to feel like you are doing enough. You understand that the only game that truly matters is the one happening inside your own mind.
So look, the next time you find yourself staring out a window, just completely lost in thought for an hour, I want you to remember this explainer. Drop the guilt. Let it go. Your mind is simply refueling its most valuable resource, its cognitive bandwidth. If everything we covered today felt uncomfortably accurate to your own life, well, it's probably because your mind is operating on that higher frequency. You are not weird, you are simply wired for depth.
I want to leave you with this final, incredibly powerful thought. Real intelligence isn't loud. It's controlled. It doesn't need to scream for attention or constantly prove its busyness to the world. It thrives in the spaces between the noise, analyzing and connecting ideas in the silence. So I'll leave you with this question to ponder. If silence is the ultimate catalyst for genius, what groundbreaking ideas is your constant busyness currently suffocating?